Yeah, we here. We are here. Cheer, dear, tear. I don't know who's Cavalier. It's Idiot TV. Scary Saturdays today. Make sure you don't put your headphones on blast because you may just ask for ear infection. Hey man, smash the like button if you're watching on the playback. Subscribe if you're new for more content. Participate with the squad, with the Dukes and Dukettes, and drop your video that you would like to see me react to next time on Scary Saturdays. But for now, man, we got stories. And, as we customarily do, or as I customarily do, we do a segment at the end where we watch something funny or whatever it may be to get our minds at ease so you can go to sleep tonight. 'Cause I know some people come on here and they watch something scary, they can't go to sleep. But I'm not going to leave the Dukes and Dukettes hanging like that. We're going to watch something that can, ease the tension, ease the mind. So at the end, I ask for prank videos or, whatever videos you think is funny and you would like to see after the horror stories. Drop that down in the comments and we'll get straight to it, man. We got Yuri, Brother Bear. Man, welcome back in, man. Appreciate you for stopping in. Scary Saturdays, man. Like I say, if you have any funny videos toward the ending, I will call out that segment when we're done with the scary stuff, and we'll go ahead and watch the funny stuff to help us laugh and go to sleep. Well, for now, man, we got some scary stories. Also, if you have any scary stories, I'm going to ask for those at a certain time, and let's drop it down to see if you guys have anything that's good that could scare your mans. But if not, don't be pressured to. I'm going to give a couple more minutes for people to come on in here. I actually got to use the restroom, so y'all sit tight. I got on the white tee today, the V-neck. That's besides the point. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Yeah, man, like I say, man, Scary Saturdays, we're back with another live stream. Hope you guys are enjoying this series so far as we just continue to do these every Saturday, man. I'm trying to have something consistent for the Dukes and Dukettes out there. We're going to have more content. I'm working on some stuff. Just y'all be patient, okay? As far as horror stories and scary stories, a lot of scary stuff happened to me all the time, especially in the past. Currently, not so much. I don't really go anywhere like that. But during my college days, where I was with the people, we used to go to some pretty interesting places at night. One that I always think about and go back to is definitely the one from now a particular church member's house. Now he has a house on the farm, and he has animals on it, and it's just in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Like even the driveway where you have to drive in. First of all, it's no driveway, but it's a gate that you gotta come through with your car, and you can't even see that clearly at night. But he has that little drive-through area, and that's how you get inside the facility slash his home space. And when you get in, you see all the land. You see, the gates where he's divided for the animals and all that stuff. He didn't have a lot of animals. Like when you enter in, it's probably like somewhere on the sides or the back. But what you can see is the gate that divides where his house is versus where he keeps the animals. And I remember we went there. It was a group of like 12 of us, 12 maybe 13. And we were there. We did camping over there one night. And it was kind of fun, because I don't really do stuff like that. Y'all know me. I'm not really going out like that, camping. Yo, so these are my white friends, guys. These are my white friends, but we had a good time. Um, what scared me the most on that trip and that experience was basically, the donkey. I've never heard up to this point. I have never heard a donkey make the sound that donkeys make. It's one of the scariest sounding, most alien sounding sounds that I think I've heard so far. You know, that sound could scare anybody at night when you can't see around you very clearly. You'll think some kind of weird alien monster is there, but we're there and it started howling or whatever you call that. It started making this noise and I'm like, what the heck is that? And then they said it was a donkey. I'm like, oh, no, y'all sure? I was confused. But let's get started, man. Enough waiting. Let's get straight to the videos. It's Eddie Ed TV. We on Scary Saturdays. Let's go ahead and make the mood for Scary Saturday. We're going to turn off the lights. All right, we are here in the premiere. Let's get ready to see. I don't know what rhymes, but anyway, let's go, man. Enough wasting time. Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have my headphones. I can't even hear anything. Let me put on my headphones, and hopefully you guys can hear. Dang, how the heck is the thing at? Trying to find a hole to put my headphones in. There we go. All right, now we'll be able to hear. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, before we do that, let's grab the snacks. I got some chips. I know it's probably gonna make a lot of noise, but got some chips for us. Well, for me. In this video. Alright. This should be good. Alright, now. Drinking. This is not sponsored, by the way, so don't even, don't take it like that. But yerba mate. I'm drinking some of this. That's all y'all get. It's not sponsored, so don't buy none.
I'm 30 years old, and I share a house with my sister. It's a 2-floor house, a mother-daughter house, meaning it has 2 kitchens. My sister takes the downstairs, I take the upstairs. My sister isn't home a lot because she often stays with her boyfriend who lives 20 miles away.
Ooh.
Like I said, I'm 30. I shouldn't let being home alone ever freak me out.
Hey man, listen, it don't matter if you're 30, 40, 50. Home alone in a big house is scary. I heard 50 Cent one time. He was like, yeah, man, what I need a big house for if I'm alone? Like, you ever look down the hallway at a big house? Like, he said that. And it's scary. So, it don't matter who you are. Having a big house to yourself is really scary because you don't know who's in there and you don't know what's in there with you. So, it's always, like 5, 6, 7. You could be however old if you're in a home alone and it's big. Or not even that big. It don't got to be that big. It's still kind of creepy.
But, admittedly, sometimes it does. This happened on a night that I was home alone in my living room watching a scary movie. My part of the house is an open layout, so the living room, dining room, and kitchen are all one big space. My couch is in the middle of the space, so as I watch TV on the couch, my back is to a large part of the room behind me. So for those a little more easily spooked, it wouldn't be the most comfortable place to be sitting alone watching a scary movie. I'll admit, as I watched in the dark room with nothing but the light from the TV to cancel the darkness of the room, I found myself glancing over my shoulder a lot. I like to think I'm not the only 30-year-old male that does that. But anyway.
Hey, you always gotta check. You always gotta check real quick. You gotta do it real quick. Hey. Especially when you feel something on your neck. When you feel like a little wind on your neck. You gotta, hey, what the heck? You gotta check every time. All right, guys.
After the movie, I brushed my teeth, turned off all the lights in the house, then went to sleep.
Okay.
My sleep lasted for about 2 hours. I woke up around 1 a.m., and I wasn't sure why I woke up at first. Then I heard a voice downstairs.
Yo!
It sounded like my sister. It sounded like she was inside the house, so it's not like she was calling for me to open the door. But still, I knew it was my sister's voice. I didn't know what she was yelling up to me though, but I was still groggy and not thinking straight. All I could think was that she must have been calling for me, or arguing with her boyfriend. So I got out of bed and went into the pitch black hall. I turned on the hallway lights and then made my way through the living room
Turn
and
on
heard
lights.
my sister's voice again from downstairs. Now I could understand her to be saying my name. I made my way downstairs in the dark, yelling back at her, "What is
crap.
it?" I looked for the light switch in the foyer downstairs, but couldn't find it. I'm not lying when I say I was groggy as hell. I walked down her little hallway towards her kitchen, find a light switch, and flick it on. The light in the kitchen lights up her little apartment, including her living room. The light starts off dim and needs time to brighten up, but I still saw that there was no one down there. Not her, not her boyfriend.
She
I
might have
went to
been
her
dreaming.
bedroom, but it was empty. I
might
called
have
her
been
name
dreaming.
really loudly one time. No one called back, but shortly after I yelled, I heard something drop to the floor in my sister's bedroom, which I had just checked, and it was empty. I went back up the stairs like a little kid and went back to my bed to where my phone was.
Yo.
I tried to call her a few times, but she didn't pick up.
Huh?
I had myself locked in my room, wondering if I had just hallucinated all of that.
I think he did. I think he
Eventually,
hallucinated.
I fell asleep, and in the morning, I woke up to text from my sister asking why I called her at 1 a.m. I asked her if she was home last night, and she told me no, she was currently staying at her boyfriend's house. I went downstairs to her bedroom to see what may have fallen down on the floor, but there was not a single object on the floor that could have made that noise.
That's weird.
I'm led to believe I hallucinated everything I heard that night, but that's what I want to believe, because the alternative would be much more horrific.
Because the other one would be scary.
I've never really hallucinated anything else, or had any kind of sleep disorders, so how vividly I heard my sister's voice, and that sound in her room, really freaks me out.
You know, with this one, I really think he hallucinated because, you know, he was very groggy, he said. He said he's very groggy. And, you know, he was like barely opening his eyes and everything. So he could have just well been sleepwalking. You know, it could have been like a brain thing. I don't know. But this one did, to me, sound like he was just out of it. But he wants to believe that he was sleepy. So it might have been real. I don't know. But I think he was just, you know, groggy and all that. Let's move on to the next one.
$5 your way, I rule this day. Nuggets, fries, drink bars just been raised. Ed Whopper Jr.
I was left home alone a lot as a kid, just due to the fact that my mom was single for a good chunk of my upbringing, and she worked as an RN on a crappy RN schedule, and my brother went away to college. This was a night that my mom was working an overnight. It was a weekend night, so I had this girl Molly over who I was talking to.
Molly!
She hung out for a while. We watched a couple movies and whatnot, and eventually she had to go home because her parents don't like her out late, so I was left alone to hold down the fort. I continued to watch TV in my room and bed. My bedroom is upstairs next to the backyard, so when someone dragged one of the chairs on the deck outside, I heard it. I got up and looked out the window, and I saw someone sitting on one of the deck chairs down below. I called Molly's name thinking it was her. After all, she'd only left under 10 minutes ago. Whoever it was looked up at me, but it wasn't Molly.
Oh, freak.
I immediately pulled away from the window to hide. That was not anybody I recognized.
Oh,
Not in the darkness,
boy.
at least.
Oh,
I
boy.
texted a few close friends in our group chat if it was one of them messing with me. The ones who answered all said no, and asked what I was talking about. I didn't really believe any of my friends would come to my house to mess with me like that anyway. Scared shitless, but still curious, I slowly walked back over to the window to look down again, and that person was still sitting in the chair, looking up at my window.
Oh,
It was
yo!
a he, that much was clear, and he definitely saw me.
Oh,
I hurried
freak.
away from the window again to turn off the TV.
Yo, why he's standing there like Michael Myers, bro? Get your weapon. Get some help, man. You got, bro. Anybody stare out the window and just look up at you and they catch you, you gotta, man. Either you gotta punk him, or you gotta make sure you don't go away and he know that you scared, because he gonna come get you.
I sat in my bed in a ball basically, with my arms wrapped around my knees. I waited in darkness for a while. I didn't even want to turn my phone screen on because I was scared he'd see the light. I didn't even want to move because the window was opened and I feared that he'd hear any movement I made. I wanted him to assume I was just no longer in the bedroom. I waited enough time. It had to be a solid 5 minutes of just sitting there. I highly doubted that man outside could still be there. I finally mustered up the courage to get up and look out the window. I felt a little part of me die inside when I saw he was still down there, looking up at my window.
Whoa, bro.
Instead of running away from the window again,
Bro,
I
get the
tried to
nine,
be brave
for real.
and said down to him, "What do you want?" I then noticed his shoulders started to go up and down as if he were laughing really hard, but he didn't make any kind of audible laughing sounds at
The
first.
heck, man?
Until I heard a slight whistling sound coming from him. It seemed like he was laughing so hard that he was wheezing. I asked him to please go away, then walked away from the window again.
He's just playing.
I went back to my bed. I was scared to call the police for some reason.
What?
I left my room and sat at the top of the stairway listening. The back door was being pushed. He was trying to get into the house.
Bro, this dude trolling this, whoever this guy is. He's just clearly having a good time scaring them. Clearly. What that guy should have done was call the cops while he was looking at the guy. Or when, well, I don't know about while he was looking at the guy, because maybe that might make the guy come inside the house. I don't know. But he should have been calling the cops. Okay, get the 9 millimeter, exactly. Get the 9 millimeter, have it on your hip, lock the door, and make sure you got an eye on the guy. You know, that's what he should have been doing. But let's see what happens. I think he's just trolling the guy. He ain't gonna really do anything. See.
House. I ran back to my room to hide again. I was 14. I didn't know what else to do. Eventually, I heard the front door's doorknob being fiddled with, and the man trying to push the front door open as well. He gave up quickly, thank God. I closed my bedroom window and curtains. If our doors weren't locked, I could have been killed easily. I was skinny and weak when I was 14, and definitely not a fighter. I didn't leave my room again that night until my mom got home around 9. I told her what happened, and her reaction was angry at me for not calling 911.
For real? You
And in
should have been
hindsight,
called
that was
911.
very stupid of me.
Dummy.
One of the many things I did, or rather didn't do at a young age.
Bro, every movie do this. At least that's one thing from the movies you could take and use. Call the cops first. First call the cops and then run. Or that's if the person's not attacking you, of course. You ain't gonna be calling the cops trying to get out his hand or whatever. But as soon as you see something suspicious, call the cops. Hey, this guy's sitting out my window right now. He looks threatening. Give them profile and give them your address. Then get the weapons and get about the premises. That's what you gotta do. Don't be standing there. Oh man, what should I do? I should stare back at him and tell him, if you don't get out of here, I'm gonna. Nah, we don't got time for that. That's where you die in the movie. Or that's where the person always get got. Call the cops and keep it moving.
That I questioned greatly.
Do you own your home in Florida but still rent your electricity? If you pay more than $50 a month,
Victor Foti.
This was the story of how I almost died as a young kid, home alone, and possibly the most intense night of my life with way too much going on. We're a family of 5. I was 10 at the time. My older brother was 14, my little sister was 5. It was a Friday night. My brother was out with his friends causing trouble, clearly, because a dreaded phone call came to my parents.
Oh, freak. I thought that was
All
my
I
fault.
remember was I was in my room playing a Star Wars video game
Freak.
when I heard my mom start freaking out crying. I got really scared and hurried to see what was wrong. My mom was on the phone with the hospital, calling to inform my parents that my brother had gotten hit by a car. Obviously, we were all shaken and really scared. My brother's leg was broken, but I don't know what else was said on the phone. All I know is my parents hurried to get their coats on and got my little sister from her room and asked me if I was okay to stay home alone.
Hey, no!
I said yes, and
Oh,
I hurried
my
out to the car
gosh.
and left. I was of course really worried for my brother, but I really didn't want to go to the hospital and see him in any kind of bad condition. I don't think my parents wanted me or my sister to either, but they didn't want to leave my 5-year-old sister home without them. It's worth mentioning my brother recovered just fine, as his injury is no longer relevant to the story, other than it being the reason why I was left home alone on a Friday night. Before my dad left, he was trying to calm down my mom, telling her he was going to be okay. So seeing my dad like that made me feel better. I had a feeling my mom was just being overdramatic like any mom would be. I continued playing the Star Wars game for a couple more hours, when I heard the front door open. I had my bedroom door closed. By this point, it was easily past midnight and past my bedtime, so I turned off the TV and PlayStation and crawled into my bed with my Game Boy. I tried listening to hear my parents' voices, maybe
snap.
hear if my brother was with them or just hear what they
That
were
ain't
saying,
them.
but I didn't hear anything.
That's not them.
After a few minutes of not hearing them even come up the stairs, I had a feeling something was wrong. I went to my door and quietly opened it, then walked over to the ledge and banister that overlooked the living room.
Oh, shoot.
The lights were off, but there were 3 tall people standing in my living room.
Oh,
They weren't my family. I was so petrified that I was frozen for a second, where I could quietly walk back into my room and shut the door as quietly as I could in my trepidation.
Dang, in that situation, I don't even know. 3 tall people? Bro, you gotta find a way to call the cops, man. I don't know what to tell. In that situation, man, I don't even... That's a tough one because he's a young kid. That's a tough one, man. If he don't know how to use a gun, I don't know what else he could do. He can call the cops for sure, but the thing is, you don't want to be loud. You know, call the cops under the bed. I don't know. What do you guys think? Drop it in the comments.
But it wasn't quiet enough, and I knew
Or in
it.
the chat.
They had to have heard the door click shut, even if just slightly.
I know.
I hurried to my closet door, opened it quietly, stepped inside, then shut the door. I had myself sitting behind a bunch of the boxes and bags of clothes that were stuffed in my closet. I was actually pretty covered from view. There was this short period that felt like forever that I was anticipating my bedroom door open, and it did.
Oh,
And at
Lord.
that moment, I knew I was going to die.
Oh,
I
man.
heard footsteps walk into the room. I couldn't tell how many people. It may have been 1, it may have been 2. I heard the footsteps move to my bed. Then I heard my covers being played with.
Yo, what?
Then silence. Then more footsteps towards the closet door.
Woo!
Then
They
silence
coming.
for a few seconds. And then the closet door opened.
Oh,
My heart was in my throat by this
Dude,
point.
hey, like, you know when you almost getting caught, how scary that moment is. I know his heart was like, doom, 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 boom, boom, like heart hit, bro. I know.
All I did was sit quietly and hold my breath. The door was open for a really long time, but I didn't look up. I didn't move.
Don't
It had to
move.
be a good 20 seconds of silence before the door closed again. Footsteps walked away from the door, then out of the room.
Dang.
I finally looked up, and I just realized, from where I was crouched down behind the bags and boxes, I may have been visible to that person. It wasn't until probably an hour that I heard my parents return. I ran downstairs to them. The front door was left ajar by the people who broke in, and they had stolen a number of valuables from our house. It was a night that just went from bad to worse for our family. My parents were in such a rush when they left for the hospital that they apparently didn't even lock the door. I was
Wow.
lucky to have not been killed or kidnapped.
For real.
I look back now and really wonder if the person who opened the closet and just stood there for 20 seconds saw me hiding in there. Maybe he was just a guy that came to rob a house, not to kidnap or hurt a child. Or maybe he just didn't see me and I just narrowly escaped death or injury.
Possibly.
What do we got?
Code 27, freezer failure.
Sounds like a cold case.
I think it's very possible that he saw the kid, but maybe he didn't know it was a kid. Maybe he thought it was a toy based on how he wasn't moving. Probably thought it was like a toy. I don't know. Could have been that he really thought it was a kid and just didn't do anything. If he did, kudos to the guy, I guess, but he's still robbing, so let's forget about him. Yeah, anyway. Next story. Story number 4. Mr. Fitton. All right, Mr. Fitton.
I was home alone for an entire week one time when I was still a teenager living with my parents, which was a rare occasion since my parents don't go out a lot. My mom's rich friend Patty invited my parents on a trip that she was paying for.
Ooh.
I'm an only child, so I was left alone in the house. We lived in Newark, Ohio, which is in Licking County. Yes, our county was actually called Licking County.
Licking?
My parents' old house had woods in the backyard and
They
was
live in
on some
Licking?
quiet road that only a few cars would pass per day usually. We had a huge deck in the backyard overlooking the woods and a decently large backyard. We even had a little fish pond and above-ground swimming pool. This was on a Thursday night. I remember because I had conversations with friends about plans for the weekend that day. This was in July of 2013. I was out on the deck smoking weed with my speaker playing music. That's about the time it started.
Oh, so they're getting
I
buzzed.
heard a voice from out in the woods.
Nope. I mean, it's possible, but I think you buzzed, dog. I think you are buzzed light year.
I lowered the music and listened for a little bit. It didn't repeat, so I raised it back up. When the music was loud again, I heard a voice from out in the woods again. This time I turned the music off completely and listened for longer. There was a voice calling from the woods again, confirming I wasn't just hearing things.
Okay.
It was a male's voice, saying, "Hey, over here."
Nope.
It was kind of distant, but not too far.
See, it's the part in the movie where the dummies go and try to discover, oh, let's go see who's calling our name. What is wrong with you, man? You want to see how exactly or what exactly is going to get you and kill you? Don't go check nothing, bro. But this is exactly the scene in the movie where they go discover or try to figure out, what's that noise? Let's go check it out. You know?
The woods were anywhere from 20 to 30 yards away from the deck, and that's where the voice was coming from. I didn't think in a million years it was someone calling out for me, though. Rather, maybe just some kids playing manhunt or something. The voice called out again, "Hey, over here, we need help." This time I realized the voice was
chill.
too deep to be a kid.
Chill.
And when a voice yells out, "We need help," obviously that'll always be slightly concerning. I was getting a little bit uncomfortable now, because now I was questioning if these yells were directed at me. Now I heard the voice yell, "Straight in front of you, please come help us." And
Come out
voice
to the
was coming
light!
From straight in front of me in the woods. Now I had a feeling this was directed at me.
Lord.
I reluctantly called back, "Who is that?" And they responded, "We just need help. We're stuck in the woods."
What? Hold on. What in the... We just need help. We're stuck in the woods. How are you in a leg trap? Bear trap? Like what? How are you stuck in the woods? What is this guy talking about, man? This don't make any sense. You were stuck in the woods. How can you be stuck in the woods when you see where you are? Like see houses and stuff. Am I making it? I think I just confused myself. You're stuck in the woods. Let's figure out how they're stuck in the woods. Let's see what story they tell, because right now it's not making sense.
I called back, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, for
And
real.
the voice replied back, "Just please come help, straight in front of you." I
No. Hey, how are you stuck in the woods? Ain't no just please come straight. How can I help you? Hello? You're stuck in the woods. Let me see you. Like, don't tell me to just please come straight. Answer my question. That's already fishy already. That's a sign to avoid that situation because they're trying to get you. 100%. He said he better have the 9 by him for safety reasons. Hey.
My seat, walked down the
Exactly.
steps of the deck onto the grass, and proceeded towards the woods.
Hold on, he
Now,
what?
I'm of the deck onto straight in front of you. I got out from my seat, walked down the steps of the deck onto the grass, and proceeded towards the woods. I called out, "I'm coming, where are you?"
Oh my
The
goodness.
voice replied instantly, "Right in front of you, I see you." I replied back, "Wait, are you alone or with someone?" There was no answer this time. I stopped in my
Bro, come on, man. Like, you about to get got. What you mean you right in front of me? And I don't see you. That means they got eyes on you, man. This is not good, bro. You have no details of the situation. How are you stuck? You don't know. How many people? You don't know. What do you want? Man, let's go.
my tracks about halfway towards the woods. I had a bad feeling in my gut about this. I started walking backwards, back towards the house and the deck. I didn't even want to turn my back to the woods because it took me that long to realize there was something very suspicious about this situation.
Exactly.
I made it back to the deck.
See, it was
and the
too
voice
high.
didn't say anything else. If they truly saw me and this was real, they would have said something like, "Where are you going?" at the very least. They knew I was onto the situation, but who even knows how many people were in
Bro,
there?
I don't know what was about to happen to that guy.
One, could have been 3. All I know is getting stuck in the woods makes absolutely no sense, especially if he or they
Exactly.
were able to literally see me. Like what?
Yeah, exactly. He was too high to realize. This is what happened when you do certain, enhanced drugs. Like your judgment is just messed up. You don't feel certain things. Your gauge of the situation might not be at its peak, and it's probably not at its peak. And so he was like, "Hey man, let me just go check it out." That's why if he was sharp and if he was sober, he would have been straight. He said at this point he don't love life. Hey man, he don't love it, man.
Did their shirt get caught on a branch? I went inside the house and locked all the doors just to be safe. I chilled in my living room for a bit, still high, and I think that's why I was more trusting at first, because of how high and relaxed I was. Then though, I heard the voice again from outside, closer now, definitely in the backyard and not the woods anymore.
Wow.
I heard splashing of water. It could have been the pool or the pond. I hurried to the window to see. I didn't see anyone at first, but then the voice called, "I see you," with a laugh. I noticed him. It was one guy, at least one guy visible. He was hidden behind the pool on the other side, and I could only see his head. It was just too dark to make out anything besides his dark, medium-length hair. I closed the blinds and tried to ignore it. Maybe he'd lose interest if he saw I wasn't entertaining him. He was probably a sick, deranged person who enjoyed messing with people, so I didn't want to give him what he wanted. But my breaking point was when there was a horrible, aggressive banging on the window where I had just closed the blinds, and on the other side, the guy was screaming help. I screamed at the top of my lungs to "Fuck off, you freak, the police are coming." I screamed it over and over, trying to make myself sound crazier than him. I heard him start to laugh on the other side of the glass. His laughing started to fade away as I assume he walked away. I sat back down on the couch, trembling, shaking, out of breath. I sat there for a while, and it seemed like the guy had really given up. I still got a good night's sleep that night because weed helps me sleep. I wonder if I would have handled that situation any differently if I wasn't high though.
Oh,
The
100%.
situation made me more paranoid about who I opened my door to.
100%, man. Of course you would have. But this is one of the reasons why I don't like, this is one of the reasons why I don't get drunk. I don't get whatever. I don't do anything. Because, like, in situations like this where it's unexpected, you need to be sharp. You need to be able to, make moves and understand what moves you're making. Because you could really mess up if you have the wrong judgment in a situation. Hit the wrong person and you mess around and get Stone Cold Steve Austin by the Hulk, guys stronger than ever. Or you slap a girl by mistake if you're a guy thinking that she look like a guy because you just out of it. You can't see well. Now you done messed up. Dudes jumping you. I don't know what the situation can be, but I'm just saying, if you're not sharp, bad stuff can happen. Story number 5. Anonymous.
I'm 23 years old, and I live at home with my parents still. One day they were both not home, and I was outside playing basketball in the front yard. At some point while I was playing, I looked up at one of our upstairs windows and saw a woman standing there. Not my mom, not my sister.
Bro, what?
It was a random woman. I guess when she saw me looking at her, she dipped away from the window. When I went inside and upstairs to check the lounge room, she wasn't anywhere.
Nice
I
house.
checked every single room I could. Every bedroom, the bathroom, every closet. Then I checked the downstairs, which included the living room, kitchen, dining room, one bedroom, and more closets. Finally, I checked the basement, and I highly doubted she could be down there. It's a small basement with a couple couches, a bar, and 2 closets. There weren't many places for someone to hide, but when I opened the second closet door,
Oh boy.
I was incredibly scared,
Oh
as
boy.
I didn't know of any other places someone could be hiding in the house. This was the last unchecked spot that I could think of. I yanked the door open as if I were ripping off a band-aid, and like I did with the closet before this one, I right away pushed myself into the closet just in case that woman was in there and I'd have the jump on her. But all I pushed myself into was a bunch of coats and coat hangers. I was so confused. I wasn't going to question my sanity though. I definitely saw that woman and I knew it. It wasn't the kind of thing you would just so vividly imagine. I went back to the middle floor and screamed very loud that whoever was in the house needs to get the F out. I actually screamed so loud that our next door neighbor came over and asked if I was okay. I told him that I literally just saw a woman at our upstairs window watching me play basketball. He came in and helped me search again. When we couldn't find her, I was left to assume that she snuck out through the back door, which I did unlock after all when I went to grab the basketball from the yard. So my neighbor left. I locked all the doors, called my parents, and told them the crazy story, and they weren't too thrilled. But they asked me to make sure nothing was stolen. I did just that, and luckily it seemed anything that was worth something was still in place. So now fast forward to that night. I went to sleep after checking the house one more time just for peace of mind. It was hard to fall asleep though. My mind was racing for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Most people can't relate to seeing a stranger at their window inside of their house.
Mine would too.
But
sure.
My restlessness helped me out in this situation, and here's why. I was finally starting to drift away slightly.
Wow.
Then I heard some noises from the other side of me.
What?
I had the fan on above me, so the room wasn't dead silent, and that's why I didn't immediately turn to my other side at the first sound I heard.
Oh, shoot.
But the sound started to sound human-like. I turned to my other side, and there she was.
Oh, Frank!
Coming out from under my bed.
Huh?
She stood up tall above the bed, and I screamed so loud, louder than earlier before. I jumped out of my bed and tackled her to the floor and had my hand around her throat, asking her who she was. My doorbell rang, my neighbor again. I picked the tall, dirty-looking woman up off the floor and dragged her to the front door with me as she struggled and scratched at me. I still have 2 scars on my right arm from her claws. I opened my front door to my neighbor again, and he let himself in and helped me restrain the woman.
That's crazy.
This was when I called the police. The whole time we waited for the police, the woman was screaming and cursing at my neighbor and I, threatening us too.
Nah.
The best way to put it, she looked and acted like a meth head currently suffering from withdrawals. When the police arrived, one of the officers knew exactly who the woman was. They had dealt with her multiple times before. Her name was conveniently Karen. It was satisfying to watch her be brought into the back of the police car.
That's crazy.
I let my neighbor know how grateful I was for him coming so quickly to help. And that night, my mind continued
Karen
to
in
race.
a horror story?
But instead of being completely freaked out, which I still was a little,
That's crazy.
I felt this overwhelming feeling of satisfaction. And I can't fully explain why.
Hey, man. Karen got caught, baby. That's the first story, man. The first video. Which story was most scary to you guys? I mean, from what I heard, a lot of the stories weren't that scary to me. Probably this one was probably the most scary because they actually came in contact with the person. But other than that, the kid that was in the closet, that must have been real scary because they were coming inside doors and opening doors, and he almost got caught. So that one is scary too, I would have to say. But the rest of them, I wouldn't say they weren't scary, but they weren't as scary. You know, a lot of them were like, okay, you know, they could have been playing, they could have been trolling, just trying to act scary, but probably weren't going to do anything. We're not going to take that chance and see if they are, but I'm just saying it's probably just like antics. But indeed, being in the situation is a scary thing, so I wouldn't count that off totally. But let's move to the next video and see what we got. Let me see. We got 3 unsettling dark web horror stories. So this one is next. Let's see. Switch the thing. All right. I'm trying to use my other hand that doesn't have chip crumbs on it. All right, there we go. We got it.
I'm what you might call a shut-in. I've spent the past 5 years of my life shut off from the outside world in my tiny studio apartment. Other people might find it claustrophobic, but I find it comforting. This apartment is my world, and it's small enough that I know everything that goes on in it at any given moment.
All right.
Here, I know that I'm safe and protected from the chaotic world outside the window
He's one of them
that
people
I
that's scary.
always keep closed and curtained. I wasn't always like this, though. I used to be a normal kid with a loving family. Back then, I lived in a fairly large house with my parents and older brother. I don't remember my parents very well. I know they loved my older brother and I, but they were always too busy with work to actually spend much time with us. My brother, on the other hand, I can remember perfectly. He was a lot older than me, and more often than not, had to be the one to take care of me when my parents worked late into the night. I've eaten his cooking more times than my mom's. He never seemed to mind taking care of me, though.
That's a little sad.
Sometimes I wonder how much of that was a facade. A teenager like him must have felt frustrated having to take care of his kid brother all the time. Thankfully, he was kind enough to never blame me for it. Not overtly, anyways. In return, I tried my best to not bother him or my parents as much as possible. I was a shy, quiet kid, even back then anyways. I kept to myself both at school and at home, locking myself in my room until it was my time to eat, and only coming out when asked to. In my mind, I was trying my best to not be a bother to anyone. Looking back, I think I might have come off as cold or uncaring to my family. Maybe if I'd tried to talk to them more, things would have gone differently. One night, I woke up to the sound of my door handle rattling. I'd made it a habit to lock my doors early, one, out of shyness, and that most likely saved my life. I got out of bed to open the door, thinking that my brother needed something from me. But when I heard the person from the other side bang loudly on the door, I froze in my tracks. My brother was a calm, patient person. He never once raised his voice at me. It wasn't like him to bang on my door like that in the middle of the night.
He's sweating.
The person on the other side continued to bang on the door, getting louder and louder with every passing second, until I was afraid that it might break. All I could do was curl up in my bed under my blanket. At some point, I fell asleep and woke up the next morning drenched in my own sweat.
Dang.
I tried to convince myself that it was just a dream. Almost succeeded, too. But then I opened the door and stepped into my living room. What I saw there would haunt me for the rest of my life, even though I wasn't able to remember most of it. My court-appointed therapist tells me it's my mind repressing stressful memories that I wasn't mentally equipped enough to process yet. I can still recall some of those things, though. I remember the blood flowing down the wooden floorboards, the metallic smell in the air that reached into the back of my throat to make me gag, the red and blue glare of the police lights as they pulled up to the side of the house to respond to what they thought was a noise complaint. Those bits managed to sneak past the cracks in my psyche. Now, they're pretty much the only thing I can remember about that old life.
Dang.
The repressed memories had extended to memories of my family in general. By the time I was released from the foster system and found my own apartment,
Dang,
I
man.
barely remembered anything about my family. Hell, I couldn't even remember my parents' faces at that point anymore.
Wow.
I became a shut-in, living cheaply off money I made doing freelance tech jobs online. Then, one day, I looked in the mirror and saw for the first time just how sad and pathetic I'd gotten. Or rather, remained. 18 years old, and I was still the same scared little brat who hid under his blankets all those years. I thought that enough was enough, and that I would overcome my fear. The therapist who I'd been talking to online told me that some gradual exposure therapy could help me overcome my fears. She was talking about my fears of the outside world then. Once I felt I was ready, she intended to take me for a walk outside to get used to the environment. But for once in my life, I wanted to do more that was required of me. I was impatient after years of being trapped by my own mind, and wanted to take action while I still felt the determination to do so. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Instead of gradually exposing myself to the outside world to get used to it, I decided to confront my fear of death firsthand, and the only way to do that was to witness it. I logged on to the deep.
Dang it, he done gone to the dark web to witness death? Bro, don't. How many of you guys been to the dark web? I'm curious about this, man. Has anybody been to the dark web? I have not, and I don't think I ever will go to the dark web because I'm not interested in finding anything that, I'm not trying to see or get into contact with anybody that's, doing some strange stuff like that. So, if anybody has been to the dark web, drop it down in the chat, or if you're watching the playback, drop it down in the not the context, but drop it down in the comments. My bad. Because I'm curious, man, because I don't know too many people who've messed with the dark web. I think my friend WSP, he actually told me about he went to the dark, like going to the dark web to buy, I guess, some like off the market devices, like just for like entertainment stuff, like phones or something like that. But or maybe he was just looking around. But I told him he was wild. He was wilding. But if anybody hasn't or has, let me know in the chat or the comments if you watch the playback. All right, let's go.
Deep web using a Tor browser and over a dozen security features. I may be a shut-in, but I was also a freelance techie with more than one working brain cell. If I was really going to explore the deep web, I wasn't going to take any risks. I went to several gore sites to see people after accidents or natural disasters. A soldier with his leg torn apart by an explosion, its bits scattered on the dirt around him. The sight of a car crash where the driver had been crushed in their seat, with their entrails spilling out of their eviscerated belly.
Lordy.
And a person who'd been struck by lightning that fired their skin into a blackish blue hue, with dark, bulging veins beneath them.
Whoa, you know what? People actually think getting shocked by a lightning bolt is kind of cool to experience. Bro, are you crazy? Getting electrocuted by a lightning bolt? There's not many people that survive that, bro. And if you survive that, it's by because you really skipped, you really dodged the perfect or you got struck at a perfect spot where you couldn't die or where it didn't affect your body. Because most of the time, people that's getting lightning bolted, they not surviving that, man. And we hear this one. I believe this one, man.
Some of the people in the pictures I couldn't even tell whether they were dead or alive. It might have been more merciful had they been dead. I wanted to close the browser so many times while browsing that site, but even as the tears filled my eyes alongside memories that I'd been trying to forget, I kept clicking on links and looking at the terrible photos that popped up without averting my gaze. I was determined to let myself not be scared by stuff like that anymore. It seemed like I was doing well. I hadn't curled up on the bed in a panic attack yet, at least. But then I clicked one link titled Family Night Gone Wrong. I wasn't sure what I was expecting it to be about.
A live stream.
But I thought it'd just be another gruesome photo.
Oh, Lord.
Instead, it redirected me to a video. I knew it couldn't.
Oh, shoot. What if he finds the video that happened to his family? Oh, crap. Oh, man. I think he's about to find the video that happened to his family. I think his mom and dad got killed, right? But I don't know where his big brother was. I don't know if they're at home or where. But I think he's going to watch the video of the murders of his mom and dad and possibly brother. That's gonna be re-traumatizing again. So I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see what he sees, and let's see how he reacts.
Be a live feed though. I had security programs that would block any attempts to sync my computer to another device. I might be a half-mad shut-in, but I'm not an idiot. The video showed the dimly lit living room of a house, tied and propped up in a sitting position on the couch. were a middle-aged man and a woman with duct tape over their mouths. They were both sobbing through their closed mouths, but I could also hear another, younger voice sobbing with them from somewhere off camera. Two men in black ski masks walked into the frame, and each stood behind the man and woman. They both gently rested a hand on the man and woman's shoulder, like they were giving them a reassuring pat after a rough day at work. The effect they had was anything but comforting, though. The man and woman started hyperventilating. The sobbing of the younger voice off screen grew louder. Then, without warning, the masked men's resting hands tightened into a vice-like grip that made the man and woman visibly tense up in pain. The masked men pulled out switchblades from behind their backs, and in one swift motion, slit the throats of the man and woman at the same time. A muffled scream came from off-screen as the man and woman bled to death, unable to make any sound but the faint involuntary wheezing of air squeezing out of their open throat. But that's not what broke me.
That's crazy.
What made me close the browser was that I saw when the camera panned off of the couch and focused on a teenage boy tied to a living room chair. I recognized that boy. He was my brother. That living room was my living room. The faces of the man and woman on the couch instantly became more familiar to me. They were my parents, and I was watching a recording of what happened in my house the night my life changed forever. I immediately called the police. The new evidence helped reignite the unsolved case of my family's murder. It's the only good thing that came out of my dark web trip. I've given up trying to overcome my fears of the outside world, at least for now. But maybe, just maybe, if the police can catch the men responsible for my family's murder, I'll be able to muster up the courage to go outside again.
Dang, that's gotta be crazy to see the video of the murder of your family members. That is, man, let's move forward, man. That is crazy. Story.
I used to sell organs on the dark web. No, I'm not a murderer. I work at a funeral home as its sole undertaker and owner. It's the only funeral home in this small town I live in, so I was pretty much the only choice for the families of the deceased to go. I wasn't always the only worker here, though. The funeral home's a family business, so my father was the one who taught me the ins and outs of the trade as soon as I was
I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be able to do that type of job. The funeral home, looking at dead bodies, and I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, if something moved just because, I'm already like freaked out. I wouldn't be able to do it because it's just weird, and it's just you in the back of my mind. I'm gonna always think they're gonna come back alive, and just like zombie and stuff like that. Like, zombie automatically comes to my head. I don't know, because of too many movies, but I just feel like it's gonna get possessed and come back to life. I don't know, just me. I can't do it.
Old enough to. I tried to get out of it by going to medical school after university. I did pretty well for the 3 years that I was there, before I was forced to return to my hometown. My father had passed away from a sudden heart attack back home. He passed the funeral home down to me in his will. He also requested that I be the one to prepare his body for his funeral. Having to embalm his body was the single hardest thing I had to do, but I did it anyway because that's what he wanted. It was clear that the family business meant a lot to my father. The locals needed it too, if they wanted a proper ceremony without having to drive miles to the next closest funeral home. Knowing that, I just couldn't abandon it anymore. It's not like I was going to be able to pay off the student loan now that my father isn't around to help support me either. I had no choice. Either work normally as an undertaker and keep paying my student loans until it was my turn to be put in the ground, or find a little hustle on the side that might let me pay it off before I retire. The choice was pretty obvious in my mind.
Dang.
The experience I got from medical school helped me carefully extract the organs from every corpse that found their way to my embalming table. The suits and dresses cover up the scars, and a little bit of stuffing where the organs used to be kept them from looking deflated. Honestly, it wasn't too different from regular embalming. Their loved ones were none the wiser at their funerals. They often thanked me for making their families look alive one last time, not knowing that I had their organs stashed in a freezer in the back of the funeral home. For as much effort as we undertakers put into making bodies look pretty, our living clients tend to not look at them very closely in the end. So hey, what they don't know won't hurt them, right? It's not like the corpses themselves can object to whatever I do to them either, since they're, dead. Considering some of the gruesome stuff regular embalming entails, undertakers wouldn't exist if they could. Now, before any of you judge me for what I did, know this. As someone who knows doctors and wanted to become one in the past, the organs that people bury and burn every day are worth more than their weight in gold. There are people in hospitals waiting for life-saving organ transplants, and while their own time is running out, those whose time had already passed are taking their invaluable organs with them into the ground, where they have no use for it. To me, burying something as precious as organs that could potentially keep more people from dying is just absurd. It's one of the reasons why I was so against inheriting the funeral home business in the first place, even more so than the morbid nature of the profession. That's not to say that I'm some sort of saint for thinking that way, though. After all, I was mainly selling organs to make money, not save lives. No legitimate doctor I knew would ever try to find organs for their patients through the dark web anyways. I try my best to not ask what my customers intend to do with the organs I provide to them. That used to be the case with one of my most frequent recurring customers. For the sake of the story, let's call him Henry. I met Henry when I was just starting out my organ-selling business on the dark web. I had my own little website on the dark web where I could conduct my business. Every time I extracted an organ from a corpse, I would list it on my website with a starting price that people could bid on. Once an organ was sold and paid for with Bitcoin, I'd drive to a secluded spot near the buyer's address, place down a container with the organs inside, and send the coordinates to the buyer before getting the hell out of Dodge. Henry was always a high bidder, and I very quickly got used to seeing his username on my dark website, offering exorbitant amounts of money for any organ I listed. He almost always won the bid, too. I don't know where the hell he got all the money to be spending on these organs, and I didn't care.
This is creepy.
I just wanted the money. One day, I had a complete set of
first of all, dang, how much? What kind of student loans this guy got? This guy was making probably like 30 a pop, 40 a pop, and he still needed more? Bro, man, these student loans taking people's lives, bro. That is crazy. I know people to this day, kids, married, older, they're still paying off student loans, man. This is wild. Student loans is more expensive than the hospital bill.
Organs up on sale on my dark website. Hearts, lungs, kidneys, you name it. The person I got them from had died from hypothermia. Apparently, he got drunk off his mind and spent the night asleep on the street where he froze to death. Terribly tragic incident. But it gave me the rare chance to harvest a full set of undamaged organs. Plus, him dying from the cold meant they were all still remarkably preserved by the time he reached my embalming table. The liver was a little worse for wear, though. Harry won the bid for several of the organs within just one day. I was able to make a crap ton of money, but I also had to haul a heavy icebox with a heart, a pair of lungs, 2 kidneys, and one nasty-ass liver across the state to the city he was in. I was really tired that day. Extracting that many organs without damaging them and stitching the body back up isn't that easy. That, coupled with the fact that I'd delivered organs to Harry about a dozen times before, made me complacent. I didn't notice the black car that was tailing me from behind until I was already in a secluded part of the city.
Oh, freak.
When I noticed the car in my rearview mirror, I felt my pulse start to race.
Yo,
I've always been afraid that something like this would happen. I thought that the police might have finally caught on to what I've been doing.
Nah, there ain't no police.
But before I panicked, I calmed myself down. It could just be a coincidence. A car that just so happened to be going in the same direction as me. I pulled my car to the side of the road, under the pretense of checking my phone, hoping that they were just a regular car that'll just drive past. Instead, my heart leapt into my throat when the car pulled up beside me. This is it, I thought. They were the cops and are going to arrest
Nah,
me
they
for
trying to
selling
kill
organs
you,
on the
bro.
dark web.
Ain't no cops.
But instead of arresting me on sight, the person in the black car rolled down their window. Inside was an average-looking man in a white dress shirt. I kept my window shut, still pretending to be on the phone, when I got a text message on it. It was from Henry, and it simply read, "Look beside you." I realized that the person beside me was my buyer. I was relieved that it wasn't the police, but I didn't want to show my face to a guy who buys organs on the deep web either. I made no move to open the door or roll down the window. I just texted him back asking if he was the guy in the car beside me. He confirmed my suspicion and told me to roll down the window so that we could talk. I didn't budge. I just told him that we can discuss whatever he wants to discuss through text. I also asked him how the hell he knew where I was in the first place. I could hear him chuckle in his car when he read my message, and texted back that he had his ways. I could only assume that he must be tracing me by my phone somehow. He asked me how I got my organs, to which I replied that it was none of his concern. I saw him frown through the car's open window. Then he asked me if he could be there when I acquired the organs. I asked him why the hell he'd want that. His response remains with me to this day. He texted me that he always wanted to try making sashimi, and that the meat needed to be extra fresh for that. I realized
What
with
the?
horror.
Yo! This guy over there making meals with this thing? Oh my goodness, bro. He's a cannibal.
That all this time he'd been buying the organs I sold to eat them. When I looked at him again through the closed car window, he was smiling in my direction with a toothy grin and wide, crazed eyes. I hit the gas and got the hell out of there as soon as possible. I also broke my phone and tossed its remains into a garbage can as soon as I could. Deep down, I always knew that it was possible that my customers could be eating the organs I gave them. There are a lot of sick people on the dark web. But there's a difference between knowing there are cannibals out there and coming face to face with one yourself. I no longer sell organs on the dark web. Instead, I encourage my living clients to willingly donate their loved ones' organs. Maybe by doing that, I can make up for all the disgusting things I've enabled on the dark web.
Stolen credit card.
I became a shopaholic in my high school years.
Oh boy.
Like most girls my age, I was interested in clothes, boys, and clothes that'll get me noticed by boys. One boy that I really wanted to get the attention of was one of the rich preps, who wouldn't turn to look at you if you weren't wearing brand name clothes that cost more than what any high school student could make in a month from part-time jobs. Let's call him Dick, because that's what he was now that I look back on it. To be honest, I can't remember why I was crushing so hard on him, other than that he was rich and moderately good-looking. I must have been a weird, stupid kid back then, especially considering the lengths I resorted to in a desperate bid for his attention. I wanted to get my hands on some exclusive limited edition clothes to impress Dick. You know, the kind that prospective customers have to line up and camp in front of the brand name's store the day before it's released for a chance of buying it at a higher price than what most people make in a month. It's stupid, and I knew it was stupid, but it was the sort of thing that Dick liked to see, so I was willing to put my better judgment aside just for him. Still, I had neither the time nor the money to do what needed to be done to get stuff like that. My parents sure as hell wouldn't let me use their money for such a stupid reason anyways, so instead I tried looking for them secondhand online for a price that I could afford using what I made at my part-time babysitting job. I didn't have much luck with that. A lot of the sellers were trying to make money by selling the items for more than they'd bought them for, so the prices were even more ridiculous than they would have been fresh off the rack. I remember once reading that stolen goods could be found being sold on the dark web for cheap, since the sellers wanted to get rid of them as quickly as possible.
I don't know about for cheap.
So I decided to try my luck there once I've exhausted every other option. I logged into the deep web using a Tor browser and immediately went to find a website for stolen goods on sale. I was able to find some of the exclusive clothes that I was interested in. The prices were only barely any better than the retail price though, and some of them had stains, that I didn't want to think about too much.
Of course.
After a while, I was just about ready to give up trying to impress Dick with clothes I clearly couldn't afford. Things would have turned out so much better for me if I had done that. But right before I closed the Tor browser and got back to my life, an ad popped up on the corner of the screen.
No.
Several ads like it had popped up every now and then as I browsed the deep web. I ignored most of them, but I decided on a whim to take a look at this one before I closed the browser. It was an advertisement for credit card information on sale for as cheap as $25. This piqued my interest. I thought I'd be able to buy the clothes online using someone else's credit card if I just bought the credit card info for a measly $25. I probably should have known that there would be a catch, but I was too blinded by the chance of an easy solution after searching everywhere else, only to be disappointed. After buying the equivalent of $25 in Bitcoin and spending it all on a stranger's credit card, I was ready to go on a shopping spree. I won't say what the name of the person whose credit card is, for reasons that'll become obvious. For the sake of the story, I'll just call him John Doe. John Doe was loaded. I must have bought over $10,000 worth of stuff without
Louis
maxing out his credit card.
Vuitton.
I was ecstatic that I hit the jackpot, even after Dick promptly blew me off in favor of dating some girl from a family even richer than his. I kept using John Doe's credit card to buy just about whatever I wanted online. I never had them sent to my house, though.
Of course
There's an
not.
abandoned house in my neighborhood that I used as the billing address for stuff I bought. The yard was a bit overgrown, but other than that, it still looked livable enough that someone who didn't know any better would assume that the homeowner was just too lazy to cut their grass. I was pretty small for a teenager, so I was able to squeeze through a tiny window in the back of the house to sneak inside. When the day of an expected delivery came, I'd go to the house and wait behind the door for the courier to arrive. I'd snatch the package they left on the front door the moment they were gone and stuff it inside my bag to bring home with a smile on my face. Things were perfect. Then, one day, as I was waiting in the house for an overpriced jacket, someone knocked on the door. I thought it was just the courier at first. I waited in silence for them to give up and just placed the package on the door before leaving. But then, they kept knocking. Then, they started banging on the door while shouting for John Doe to open the door. I got scared at the mention of John Doe's name.
Get to the
I'd
back.
stolen his credit card info to buy things in his name and had them delivered to that house. Whoever was on the other side must have tracked my transactions made under his name and found the house where the items were being delivered. They thought that I was John Doe, and they did not sound happy with him.
Get out the
As
back
I sat
door, bro.
frozen in panic on a dusty couch,
Oh my
trying to figure out
gosh.
what to do, a loud bang rang out from the other side of the front door.
Oh,
A vase in the living room shattered into pieces. Behind where it once stood was a smoking gunshot hole fired through the front door. I immediately booked it out of the house, jumping out of the back window and into the streets. I ran back home as fast as I could, the sound of gunshots fading behind me the further I got from the abandoned house. A few days later, I read on the news that a man by the name of John Doe had died in a hit for stealing money from the mob. I had no way of confirming it,
shoot.
but I knew it was the same John Doe whose credit card I'd been leeching off. I never went back to that abandoned house to receive the jacket I ordered. After what almost happened to me there, I don't think I'll ever return to that house.
Hey, so you mean to tell me she got John Doe swapped because she was over there? We got pancakes in it. Was good. She got John Doe. Oh, freak. She got John Doe swapped because she used the money and was buying mad items for free. Dang, she got somebody killed she didn't even know. And but she didn't know he was from the mob, but still, that's a crazy situation to get popped for somebody else's theft. That is wild. Let's continue. Oh, it's over.
Or the dark web ever again.
Hey man, the dark web, once again, don't be messing with the dark web out here, man. It's crazy. The fights are happening today. Oh yeah, you're right. The fights are happening today. You're doggone right. We have Izzy fighting and everything. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We here, man. 3 disturbing true new house stories. Here we go. RD.
My wife Cheryl and I have been together for 10 years, and we got married 2 years ago. We just got a house together not even a month ago, and things couldn't have started on a worse note. We moved to a small inland town of Georgia called Waycross. That's all the details I'm giving though, to avoid any more possible issues. We're on a quiet street with a big property that sits in front of a medium-sized patch of woods, which was one of the factors that really appealed to my wife and I. We plan to adopt a dog and raise kids here, so we wanted a big property for the dog and kids to play around on. We both work similar shifts. I get home around 5 and she gets home around 6 most of the time. The first 2 nights in the house went completely normal. It was the weekend, so we spent our entire days unpacking. It wasn't until Monday night, when we were both in bed, only having turned the lights out maybe 20 minutes ago, that outside from the backyard, there was the sound of this blasting music. Our nearest neighbors on either side were spaced out enough where we couldn't mistake music from their yards being in our yard. It was definitely in our backyard, and it wasn't party music or anything like that. It sounded like very old, staticky, vintage music.
Nah, we gotta chill out with that. We gotta really chill with that. We gotta get the gats. Where's your gun? Where's the machete? We gotta get steady. Cause whatever's going on, just like the horror movies, when they play the old "Oh, the window," like if that's any music like that, we gotta take it serious. We gotta get active.
The windows were shut, so after my wife and I exchanged horrified glances at each other and wondered where the music could be coming from, I opened my window on my side of the bed, and it was much clearer. There was some song that sounded like it was from the 1940s or something.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, those songs, the old songs like that, sound terrifying. I don't know I think it's because the horror movies used it, and it was the scary notion attached to it. But when I hear any old song like that don't sound clear and they sound muffled and just weird looking, bro, I don't like. I start to get a little nervous. I start to get a little scary. That's how it feels.
I later found out after looking up the lyrics that the song name was "Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf" by Henry Hall. It has a slight eerie vibe to it for some reason, even though it was meant to be a happy song. But at the time of listening to it coming from our backyard, it was nothing but downright horrifying. We were still learning the house, but we figured there must be a backyard light switch downstairs. I ran downstairs to the back door and flicked the light switches next to the door, and one of them turned on the backyard lights. I didn't see anyone in the backyard. I opened the door, and the music was louder, obviously, but as I walked out into the grass, I realized it wasn't coming from the backyard, rather from the woods. The song played to completion as I was outside in the yard just standing there looking around. When the song ended, there was silence again. It seemed like someone must have been playing some stupid housewarming prank, but it wasn't appreciated. I went back to my wife and told her it was probably just some kids trying to scare the new ones in town.
Hey, I hope he had a gun when he went out there. Don't be going out there barehanded over there looking like, yeah, what's in the woods. Nah, if anything, go out there with your shotty to the body and look packed. If you don't go out there looking packed and they see you looking, well, barehanded, just your hands in the flashlight, they're coming for you.
For whatever reason. Hearing myself even say that, I realized how stupid and weird it sounded. Why would anyone do that? The next night, it happened again. A few minutes after we turned out the lights in the bedroom, music from outside started blasting. This time much louder, and the song playing was that song everyone's heard, "Tiptoe Through the Tulips." Cheryl and I once again looked at each other, this time in genuine disgust and worry, because we had hoped it was just going to be a one-time thing, but it was happening again. I looked out the window, and this time I could see something on the grass. It wasn't a person, but there was definitely something out there. I told my wife I was going to check it out. She said we should just call the cops, and I said yeah, we will in a second. I went out there with this mindset that I need to establish I'm the man of the house, not just to my wife, but to whoever was thinking they could mess with us just for being the new people on the block.
Show what you have.
I saw the object in the grass was smaller than I had thought, but the blaring, creepy song was coming from it. I realized it was an old radio. I turned it off and looked up at the window at my wife who was watching, and I held it up, yelling that someone left it there to scare us with the music. What she did next was not something I expected in response to that. She started screaming my name to run inside. She kept screaming, "Run." I yelled, "Why?" And she screamed,
What? Hey! What? Ah, my gosh. What do you mean? Why? Come on, man. I gotta take a sip. What do you mean, why, bro? Don't ask why. See, I know. This is my brother instead of my brother. You know what I mean? I'm saying it, but not saying it. This was my brother because the brothers won't ask why. We just fly. You know what I mean? We out of there. No quit. Run. That's it. That's all you needed to say. I got you. But you asking why? It's nighttime. Weird stuff like this is happening. You gonna ask why run? Oh my gosh. Hopefully he don't get his neck twisted, because this is unbelievable. This is...
"Scream back, there's people standing behind you." This statement made my heart skip a beat, and I turned around to face the woods.
Oh my gosh.
I saw 3 figures standing like 6 feet apart from each other, clearly facing my direction. They weren't running at me, they were just standing there. I yelled, "Oh shit," and ran back inside the house, slamming the door behind me. My wife was upstairs, hysterical, crying already. I told her I'd call the cops, and I did. They arrived thankfully not that long after. All the while, we were scared to hear knocks at one of the doors or windows. My wife and I desperately explained the situation to both of the police that arrived, and I showed them the radio on the ground. I asked them if they could take it back with them as evidence for prints, and told them I only touched the top part with the handle. They did take the radio. They also checked the front of the woods with their flashlights for a few minutes, probably just as a deterrent to the people in the woods to stop their behavior if they were still there. When the police left, honestly, we went right back to feeling vulnerable and scared, but thank Christ the people never returned. This was only a few weeks ago though. God forbid they came back, I'd try to get it on video.
That's crazy.
Hey, do you ever walk into a room and completely forget why you're there?
Yep.
Yeah.
It happened to me today.
After going from living with my parents for 28 years to buying my first house, I'll admit it was a bit of a shock to adjust to. This was July of 2022, so very recently that I moved in. My house is a 30-minute drive from my parents' house, so we're not that far away. In my parents' house, I would always constantly be awoken at night by my dad going up and down the stairs in the middle of the night. He's basically a chronic insomniac and constantly has to get water or go to the bathroom throughout the night. So having my own place would finally mean peace and quiet, but that doesn't mean my dad didn't pass down his inferior sleeping abilities to me, because I'm a very light sleeper too. The layout of my new house is as follows: a small unfinished basement with laundry and boiler room, first floor with living room, kitchen, bathroom, and dining room, and the upstairs with 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. One bedroom I use as an office, another one I use as a little workout room. For the first couple of days, my dad was over to help me bring in furniture and set the place up. The bulk of it was done after that. Then it was just minor decorating and smaller things here and there. I'd say a week into moving in, I was practically done with the furnishings and fully at home. On a Sunday night, I could tell I was going to have a rough time trying to sleep because I was wide awake. I took a melatonin and a sleeping pill to help, and within an hour, I was out like a baby. Usually when I take these, I sleep through the night without waking up. This night, though, I woke up. A sound from outside my room woke me up.
Oh boy.
I was so dazed and confused, freshly woken up from an intense dream, that I wasn't thinking clearly.
Dang, you ever get woken up from a dream you don't want to wake up from? You want to finish it out? Like, there's been dreams where I've been eating something, and I'm like, or I've been close to biting something, like a good meal, but I never get to it. But like I'm salivating, and I wake up drooling. I'm like, oh, this is gross. Or like, you know, some freaky ones. But there has been dreams where you wanted to see it through, but you wake up, you know, and it's like, oh man, I thought I was gonna finish it or whatever. But yeah, I definitely understand this.
The noises from outside my room were familiar footsteps going up the stairs. My dad, as usual, waking me up with his middle-of-the-night trips up and down stairs. I tried to drown out the noise and ignore it. I was in such a daze that it didn't even hit me right away that those footsteps couldn't be my dad's. I snapped back to reality and sat up, listening. The footsteps stopped. Now that I was fully awake, I wondered if it was an auditory hallucination. Like, was it just something engraved in my memory that I heard it in my half-woken up state? I actually nervously called out, "Dad?" I didn't know what I was expecting to happen, but no one called back.
Son.
I went out into the hallway outside of my room and turned on the lights to each room I passed. I made it to the stairway, and I looked down the stairs at a tall man in a mask at the bottom, looking up at me. It didn't feel like a reality that I was actually staring at an intruder in my house. I didn't see any weapons on him, but I wasn't about to go fight him. I screamed at him to get the fuck out of my house, definitely with a shake in my voice. Believe it or not, he turned around and left through the front door. I ran down the stairs to lock it behind him. When I went to call my dad, I heard the back door to my house slam shut. There was a second person in the house who I didn't see. I was full on freaking out. My dad picked up, of course, because he's never asleep, and he questioned why I was calling him and not the damn police. He told me to hurry, so I called the police, and the operator asked me a million questions while I waited.
Oh my god, that's
I was
funny.
interviewed by the arriving officers, who asked me for a description of the robber, what they stole, if anything, and which direction they left in, and what vehicle. Unfortunately, I didn't think to watch them leave, so I couldn't even answer what direction they went. And I couldn't give a physical description other than one of them was tall because of the mask. It didn't actually seem like they stole anything, but I didn't have anything of real value on display on the first floor. The method of entry was a kitchen window, just big enough to climb through. Experiencing a home invasion is something you always hear about on the news, but never assume it would actually happen to you, much less right after you move into your first house. I wish I could have been more help to the police in identifying them. Now, I sleep with a knife next to my bed.
now you see with a knife next to his bed, son. Hey yo, shoot, this is not a game though. This is serious stuff. But I just think it's kind of funny because he said, "Now you sleep with a knife, bro. If you don't know how to use a knife, you better get you a weapon that can shoot from a distance. It's because close combat is no joke. A knife." If you don't know how you want, I'm just saying, it's a lot of, you can take a lot of damage from a knife if you don't know how to defend against one or use one. So maybe a longer distance type of weapon that you can use without being close is the best option than a knife. But man, I don't blame him though. Like, shoot, that's why, like, having the house, I'm always thinking of like ways to make it security, like, border the windows, which windows to border. I'm even thinking as far as booby traps. But the thing with booby traps is like, okay, if I have a booby trap, would I forget to turn it off or put it away or stuff like that? So it's like, okay, if I have a booby trap, what type of booby trap? And then where is it going to be placed? So there's a lot of different things that I think about when it comes to securing and making the house safe. Obviously there's things that you don't want to do because you just cause injury to yourself. But there's other practical things where you can use to, like, secure doors, windows, stuff like that. Anywhere where somebody can slip in, there's a way to fortify it to where they can't pass it. Or if they pass it, something happens to where you're alerted and, you can get your gats and you could aim at where they at. Okay. But let's move forward to the next story. Anonymous.
By 2050, there will be...
All right. That was a funny one at the end. I'm not going to lie. That was a funny one.
When I bought my current house that I'm living in, right away my next door neighbors knocked on the door and introduced themselves. They were both as kind as could be on both sides.
Wow.
My house is waterfront on a canal. I wanted a waterfront house because I have a boat, so it was a no-brainer to have the convenience of keeping my boat in the water in my backyard. A house on a canal, though, means sacrificing privacy in the backyard, as the house across the canal from me looks right into my yard. From the start, even when I went to view this house for the first time, I wasn't the biggest fan of the house across the canal. It just looks like it hasn't been taken the best care of, and it's kind of an eyesore when I'm sitting in the backyard. For almost 2 weeks after moving in, I'd look out my window before bed every night to the house across the canal to always see
He's
the
scared.
lights out.
He's
The
scared,
house was
baby.
always pitch black.
Always pitch
I
black.
wondered if maybe it was a second home for whoever owned it. But then one night, things changed. On the same day that my brother helped me launch my boat into the water and bring it to my dock in the yard, just as I was about to shut the blinds in my bedroom, I looked across the canal again. And tonight, there was one light on in the house across the canal. And in that room, which looked to be a living room by the back door, there was a man standing there looking outside. So there was someone living there after all.
Okay.
The
Creepy
man
old
was
guy.
in sweatpants and a long-sleeve shirt. He looked like he had a full head of grayish hair. Based on appearance from that distance, he looked like he could be 50 on the dot. It seemed like he could have been looking at my windows. But then again, the more likely explanation was he was just looking out into the yard thinking, even though it was pitch black out there. I closed my windows and went about the rest of my night. The next day after work, I got home and set my stuff on the kitchen table, then went outside to the backyard to plant some grass seed in the yard. I couldn't help but look and notice the man standing at his back door again. This time I knew he was watching me. It was obvious. We made extended eye contact, then I looked away. I didn't want to wave, that would be weird. I tried to just pretend I didn't notice him still there looking at me. It's as if I was doing something wrong being in my own backyard. One day I had my friends over to take the boat out, and both when we were leaving and coming back, I didn't see the man at his door. I had only seen him twice so far, but already I was paranoid whenever I was outside, and always looked across the canal at his door. A few nights later, I looked out my window in my bedroom again. He was at his door again. I wondered how long he would just stand there. It was so bizarre. I turned off my lamp, and then kind of stood just aside the window peering my head out, to see if he'd keep standing there even after I would turn the light out. And he did. I must have stood watching for 3 minutes.
What's up
and
with
he
people
wouldn't
when doing
move.
that, man?
I shut my blinds and continued with my night. I told myself from here on out I'd just ignore it and keep my blinds shut past sunset. I went to bed wondering how I would go about confronting the situation, or if I even would. I considered maybe just going out to the dock and waving, or trying to talk to him.
Yeah,
or
try
even going to
something.
knock on his door to introduce myself.
Goodness gracious.
But that sounded stressful.
That
On
sounded
the
stressful.
same night, while I was in bed, I was starting to drift off into sleep when I heard something in my backyard. There was someone on the deck, walking around. I could hear it. I went to the window to get a look, but I couldn't see from my upstairs window. I'd have to go downstairs if I wanted to see. But before that, there was a startlingly loud crash sound from below me. It was the window. I could tell it was the sound of shattering glass. I ran downstairs to the kitchen to grab a knife and the phone to call 911. I looked towards the back of the house and saw I was right. Glass of the backyard window was spilled out onto the floor, and one single brick laying on the wood floor, clearly what was thrown through the window. I was frightened that I'd see someone hiding in the corner of the room, but to my relief, there was not. I called 911 and requested police officers get here ASAP. Before the police arrived, I peeked out the now broken window into the yard. I turned on the back deck light. Whoever did this clearly already ran for it, but that was good, at least they didn't come into the house. When the police officers arrived at my house, I showed them the window and brick, and told them that it was most definitely the guy across the canal who'd been eyeballing me through his windows since I moved in. They asked if he had any reason to have any issue with me, and I said no chance in hell, I didn't even know the guy. I asked them to please go to his house and arrest him. They said they'd go over and knock on the door. So when another police car came to my house, the first 2 officers went to drive over to the house. When they came back about 20 minutes later, they said nobody lived in that home. A neighbor told the police when he saw them outside that the house had been foreclosed on months ago, and the other tenant was evicted a while ago. I know nothing about foreclosures,
shoot.
so I asked the cops if maybe it was someone from the bank that foreclosed on the house. They said their guess is as good as mine. They recommended I install some cameras outside of my house in case the harassment continued. The police left one of their cars parked in front of my house, I guess to make me feel safer with my window being busted open now. The next morning, I woke up early and went over to that house, and I tried opening the front door and then the back door. The front door was locked, but the back door was unlocked. I quietly opened the door and took 2 steps inside of the dark, creepily empty house, and I heard something from upstairs. I noped out of there and ran back to my house. The police car was still outside my house. That day, I had my window fixed and pretty soon installed doorbell cameras in the front and back of my house. I haven't seen that man in the house again. I still don't know if he's still in there, who he is, if he's the one who threw the brick through my window, or why. Knock on wood, things have been fine ever since.
Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy. That's creepy, you know? Having somebody inside your house that you thought lived in another house, but turned out the house has been foreclosed. Nobody really lived there. So that's a squatter. That's a random person that is at the spot just over there looking at you. He don't even live there. Oh my goodness, man. Scary Saturdays always surprise me with new stories. We're getting close to the end, man. If anybody has a video idea regarding something funny that we could watch to end the night off, because the fight is happening tonight, so I want to make sure I could see if I could find it or something. I want to make sure we could find it. So if anybody has video to watch, drop it down in the chat and let me know where it's at. Let me see something real quick. There's a video that somebody sent me a link to. Alright. Let me see. See what we can find. Since nobody's commenting in the chat. Let's find a roast me. A roast me is always roast me funny moments. Roast me funny moments. Alright. Roast me funny moments. Let's see what we got. Roast me compilation, all def digital. Alright. Roast me funny moments. Let's go to this one right here. I think I found one that's funny. Alright, we're gonna do roast me. Hold on. Let me put that one there. I switch it. Roast me. Alright. We're gonna end it off with a roast me. This is where they roast people, pretty much tell jokes, funny jokes. It gets personal, but it's nothing to be taken personal, just for the jokes and laughs. But let's watch it. Let's laugh off the night.
All right, baby, we'll get the show started, man. Coming to the hot seat first, all the way from Ardmore, Maryland. Y'all give it up for Mike, y'all.
Hey. That nigga front tooth died in a corn dog bite.
That's funny. Okay. I like that one.
Dirty ass nigga. I like that one. After you wash your clothes, you got to wash the washing machine, you dirty ass nigga.
Yeah, you look like a Down syndrome lemur.
Every time you talk, I think a train finna come out your mouth. Your mouth look like a haunted hallway.
Hey, your jacket too small. You gotta choke it on, boy. Your tongue is cold. Your beard is dusty. The only thing you don't miss is meals.
You probably coming to the hot seat, man, all the way from Macon, Georgia, Mactown. Y'all give it up for David Lucas.
David Lucas.
Look at this fat nigga trying to dress regular size. This nigga got a regular nigga head with a big ass body. This nigga like B2K road manager. Got 12-year-olds everywhere lined up. It's gonna be beautiful.
Shut your frog face looking ass up, nigga.
You like you been eating flies today, nigga.
Hey, them muscles in the back of Craig's head knocked Mike's tooth out.
I wanna swipe my debit card in the back of your head and get cash back from your head.
Swipe the card through that slight gap in your mouth.
I can put 85 cents through the middle of your mouth.
Brent know how to play no scrubs on a tuba. I don't want no scrubs. look like Aaliyah Farber on Romeo.
Nigga hush. And here, this nigga built like pre-prep chicken. Seasoning salt. Show them unnamed shoes you talking about. He got some karate boots from Fight Night. PlayStation 2 boots.
PlayStation 2 boots.
Mark ass shoes on, bro. Them bitches came with a pound of detergent.
Hey, take your hood off, nigga.
Take that bird out the back of your head. That shit like a bird nest. Hey, my mama, your ass got a pound of baby oil in your head, your little ugly ass. This ass, hey, you put egg yolk in your head every morning. Hey, your little ugly ass. Your ass like a gay toll booth for social. Your ass been that bitch. When they brought up think before you speak, they thought of your ass.
Oh, Nas mouth. Hey. Like you been tongue kissing uppercuts, nigga. You chipped your tooth licking the crosswalk button, nigga.
What the heck, man?
You work for Billy Blanks, don't you? Exercise tape body ass, boy. That hat glued to your head. Your ass got a wet finger wave under that.
Hey, nigga, you got tooth cancer, nigga. Hey, you look like there's too much pressure not to smell like piss.
What the heck?
He on fire! He on fire right now! Your ass strong for no reason. Your ass punch rearview mirrors for no reason. Let him go! Get out! Like Chico the bars with breast cancer.
Yeah! Like you get pistol whipped in the mouth every morning.
Hey! You try to tuck them boots though on my mama, boy. Hey, like feet ass, boy. Your ass kill innocent cockroaches in there.
Kill innocent cockroaches.
Like James Earl Jones off Media Man.
Oh Lord!
In his mouth, ready to gum you down.
So goof ass back. Yeah, he did a step back.
So goof ass back. Your ass dressed like you got some baby back ribs and slow cooking.
That nigga look like he just started playing throw up tackle.
Well, that curl played out of your shit. Your ass got a KC and JoJo. That nut in your shit.
That nigga got that baby.
He knew I was coming. Baby, I'm begging, baby. Curl ass, boy. That shit, boy.
Car wash work ass pants. Mexican ass pants. Weedy, you got skinny jeans. I'm fucking skinny jeans. Uncle Phil ass polo. Carl Winslow ass polo. Big body ass. Get your ass out of here. That shit don't work. I never did this before, man. I gotta send somebody in the hot seat. I gotta send Boo to the tent. Get your ass out of here. Hey, this nigga won't let nigga get out. Nigga, I know. Hey, take that beat and batteries out your back pocket. Hey, Boo ain't going. Boo ain't going.
It's a lot of fucked up smiles in this audience right now. These niggas, y'all niggas are Dennis' worst nightmare. Fuck out of here, man.
That nigga look like Marvin, sometimes gay.
Motorcycle pants, no motorcycle at all. I got to right here. I got it. Hey, you the first nigga with some Transformer Adidas on. Them motherfuckers turned to sandals and dress shoes. His ass look like he said a Harlem Globetrotter button up.
You always got to
niggas out when you blow your breath.
He said what?
You look like you knock niggas out when you blow your breath. This nigga
good talker. He got a mouthful of quicksand.
Your ass trying to throw some nail in your head as a science experiment. Bald head.
David Lucas! Baby! Hey, Dave. Hold on, let me get this one. If you click your boots, it'll take you right to a Krispy Kreme.
You make niggas take their shoes off before they come in your house, nigga. If you don't get your silk bedspread laying ass down, nigga, motherfucker. Why about to get your ass, nigga?
Hey, you built like a Nissan Altima. You got Dodge Neon car seats.
Nigga, you got them $5 footlongs on your feet, nigga. Wheat brand having ass, nigga. Get them Subway sub soldiers off your feet, nigga. Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down looking like a Puerto Rican auntie, nigga.
For Brent Taylor, y'all.
We got claps for this nigga.
Looking like T.I. son, nigga.
Hey, when you went to college, you pledged Kentucky Fried Chicken, nigga.
Hey, Jade built like Arby's. We had the meat.
Wow.
This nigga summoned the ghost of Ray Lewis when he fight bitches.
That nigga Jade look like a champion breed Rottweiler.
Oh, Lord.
Pitbull collar ass nigga.
Jade eat nachos while he read the Bible.
Yeah. Nigga, you start your car with a dumbbell, nigga.
Hey, Jade, you like Malik Yoba, nigga.
New York undercover looking ass.
That nigga built like he put butter in his water.
Nigga built like he crushed sunflower seeds with his eyelids. Strong ass.
Damn.
Your ass got a nipple chain on. Bitch.
Hey, this nigga Donterra look like he ate out of a blender, nigga.
Don't nobody peep this though. Don't nobody peep this. He's at exercising right now. He's steady doing toe races. I gotta be in the gym. He got that bitch. Look.
Every time Pat crack a joke, he throw his head to the side.
Do it, Pat, do it.
Yeah. You look like a scooter salesman from Kingston, nigga.
This nigga Dontario's teeth don't want to be teeth no more.
That nigga.
Them damn dreads look too heavy for your neck. Big dreads.
You look like you look like you fight every nigga in your family.
That's funny. Hey, we ain't little no more.
Hey.
We ain't little no more. Niggas grown now.
Hey,
Niggas grown now.
Dontario chewed gum made of concrete.
Hey, somebody get this man balls of asthma pump. This man balls of asthma pump.
Hey, Dontario takes showers outside.
Hey, your ass headbutt CTA bus seats for no reason.
I headbutt your grill.
Get that man balls of asthma pump, man.
Hey, hold that dog, man. I gotta send somebody to attention, man. He just keeps saying everything everybody else said. I gotta say
your clothes look like they already wet. Big fit ass. You pulled that shit out the washing machine and threw it on. In that collar, lazy as hell. Your ass hiding Black and Mild tops under that bitch. Yeah, what you want to talk? I got it.
Who got a faded black shirt under a faded blue shirt?
Your ass got on some step up to the plate feet there.
all right, man, I gotta. Hey, I hate to do it, man. It's the first time I ever did it, man. But I gotta suspend somebody from this episode. Gotta suspend Boo Capone.
Oh!
Damn, bro.
Man!
You got to go.
He been trying, man. He been trying.
I can't talk. This is
I know this is the season finale, man. Make sure y'all follow
looks like
Boo
that brush
Capone,
that they be
man.
putting motherfucking naps in.
I'm sorry,
y'all, man. Hey, man, I'm out of here, man. You broke ass nigga.
You ain't dead, nigga. You know that.
Walk off. We gonna see you in 20 minutes.
What else you got, Dave?
Goddamn, I rest my face on a man's booty mouth ass.
What else you got, Dave? Give me one more.
I like chest and biceps ass nigga.
Hey man, hey listen guys, appreciate you guys for rocking with me, man. It's another scary Saturday. We just ended it off with some roast me from All Def Digital. If you know them, you know. If you don't, you just met them. They're a funny comedian or comical channel. They have many different comedians on their channel. It was nice to end it off, man. I'm trying to see if I can watch this fight. But nevertheless, man, I hope you guys enjoyed another Scary Saturdays. If you guys have videos for me, go ahead and drop it on the next notification that I post on the media page for the YouTube channel. I'm gonna ask you guys, you know, what videos you have for me and stuff. We'll add more things to the lives. Like we'll do different lives and stuff like that. Like, you know, we'll make it specific when I come up with the ideas. But for now, we have Scary Saturdays. Hope you guys are enjoying this this type of live. If you aren't, let me know how I could make it better. I guess, you know, put your suggestions down below in the chat or whatever you have. Man, it's been fun. It's been scary. Instead of Yet TV, Scary Saturdays. We keeping it moving, man. You guys have a good night. Make sure you lock your doors. You know, get your weapons right where you can find them in case of any emergencies. Have your phone ready and charged up, man. This is serious business. This also could bring awareness to being lazy on checking all your security measures before you go to sleep. You know, we got to make sure we check our stuff before we go to sleep because home invasions are real. Got to be vigilant out there. You got to know what you are doing and be prepared for any situation that may arise in the best way you can. But without further ado, man, we're going to end it here. It's been fun. Scary Saturdays. Catch you guys next live stream. And if you're new, subscribe. It's free. Instead of Yet TV, catch you guys next time. Bow.